Hi guys, welcome back. In this video, we're going to try to understand what exactly is economics and what exactly is the study of economics. Why do we even study it? Now, I want you to imagine that you walk into this whole market to buy onions, right? And let's say that last week they were 150 rupees per kilo, and they were 3 rupees per kilo, and today the same onions are 250 rupees a kilo. Prices just went up by 100, and you wonder what really happened overnight. Was there less supply of onions that caused the prices to rise, or maybe the transportation cost of onions just went up, or are there middlemen hoarding the stock? So now these all questions are running in your head. Now I want you to zoom out, and I want you to think that why do you even care about why onion prices are rising? Well, there's a reason to really care about, because when onion prices rise, they affect household budgets, they influence what restaurants charge, they even impact government policies, because onion is a basic necessity, and if the prices are going up, maybe the government would intervene in the markets and say, oh hello prices, come on, you need to come down, and probably tell all the sellers of onions that don't charge excessive high prices. So it affects government policies, and we later on study that governments also sort of intervene in these markets where they come up with policies in favor of people. And because onions is something that is bought by everyone, whether you're rich or poor, right? So food inflation, that is, food prices actually matters to everyone. And this simple example captures what economics is all about, right? It captures everything, because actually all of this is a problem. Like, prices are going up, and why should we care? Why would restaurants increase prices subsequently? All of this has to do, it all boils down to the basic economic problem of scarcity. That is the fundamental economic problem of scarcity. And because if there was no scarcity, then there was no problem. Everything would be in abundant supply, and the world would not be the way it is right now. And everyone would be so happy, because everyone would get what they want, and everything would be so stable. But that's not how it works, right? Because of the fundamental economic problem of scarcity, that's the root cause of so many things that we see up in society, where we see, people are poor while some are unemployed, while some countries are rich while some are poor, while some nations are failing, why prices are rising. It all boils down to the fundamental economic problem, is that our wants are unlimited while our resources to satisfy those wants are limited. And because of the scarcity, the scarcity sort of affects every individual. It affects every firm, every government, it affects countries and nations. And all of these individuals, firms, and governments must sort of make, choices. And remember, guys, that whenever we make choices, when we choose, right, whenever we sort of choose, we, give up the next best alternative. We choose something, but we are giving up the next best alternative. So for instance, you guys chose to watch my video right now, but you gave up something else. So in economics, you learn in the subsequent videos that this is called opportunity cost, right? The cost of giving up an opportunity is technically the benefit that you are foregoing by giving up the next best alternative, right? Now, what exactly is economics? So economics, guys, is basically a science, a social science. It studies how individuals, firms, and governments make choices about scarce resources, and how these choices affect the allocation of goods and services in society. Right? We study what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. And these three questions are not that simple as they seem. They have different meanings, right? And we'll see that in the subsequent videos. So, and when you say, guys, that economics is a social science, when we say that economics is a social science, it's not it doesn't means that it's not the science that we run in labs. We don't run experiments in a lab the way scientists and physicists do in economics. Instead, economists observe human behavior, they observe patterns, and they observe decisions, and they come up with policies, because economists use different models and diagrams and theories to understand how the real world works, right? So economists would ask these questions, and in fact, not economists, I mean every individual, firms, businesses, everyone who's allocating resources, let's say the governments, let's say the state and the countries, they would ask these questions, like, or maybe the nations or the countries or the governments would ask these questions as in what to produce. Like, they would ask, like, Should we build more schools or more shopping malls? And how to produce them? Do we use sort of robots or employ more human labor? And for whom to produce? For whom to produce means, now here you need to understand what the for whom to produce means. For whom to produce means that how resources are distributed in society. Do the rich get more? So for this particular question, it means that, do the rich get more? I mean, how are the resources distributed? How is the allocation? How is the distribution of these resources, or who gets what? And this sort of tells a lot about the income and wealth distribution of an economy. So do the rich get more, or should the goods be shared more equally in a society, right? And guys, these three questions lie at the heart of every economy, for every economy, whether it's, a US economy, a market economy like the US, or let's say a planned economy like North Korea, or, mixed systems like most countries today. And the exciting part is that economics is not just about theory, it's about real life application, from the price of your coffee to government taxes to global issues like unemployment, inflation, and climate change. Economics guys would sort of give us the tools to explain and these problems and analyze them, or even predict outcomes. So when you're saying that we're studying economics, we're actually really studying life's choices. I mean, we're studying life choices under the problem of scarcity. So it's all about decision making, trade offs, whether things are fair or not, and we also study. There's also another concept of efficiency in economics that you'll study later. So economics is all about understanding how individuals, firms, and governments interact. This is very important. That economics is about understanding how individuals, firms, and governments interact, and how their actions actually shape the world we live in today. And not only shape the world we live in today, but the future we are building tomorrow, right? That's what economics really studies about. Why jobs are created or lost, why governments end up taxing different markets or different products, or why is the fuel prices rising, and why are government giving subsidies on agriculture in Pakistan, or how countries grow rich and remain poor, and even how we, like I mentioned, that how are we dealing with global challenges like climate change, right? So that's what, guys, economics is all about. And in economics, you sort of study that basically there are two main branches. You have microeconomics, and you have macroeconomics. So microeconomics would study, microeconomics looks at individuals as an individual people, individual markets of products, like the coffee market, or the market for cars, or the market for coke, or things like that. And it will look at individual businesses, individual households, how something affects individual people like me and you. It will look at individual firms and markets. So it will study why does the price of petrol rises, and it will study how do firms decide how much to produce, and how do consumers decide how much to buy and what to buy. And well, macroeconomics is another interesting branch that's sort of zooms out to the big picture. It talks about, it doesn't look at individual markets, it looks at the big picture as a whole, right? And instead of looking at why the price of petrol is rising, macroeconomics would look at why prices in general in the economy are rising for everything, right? So it would talk about not just growth of an individual market for soft drinks, but the growth in the whole economy, like economic growth. It would talk about the exchange rates, why the dollar is so expensive, why purchasing dollar in Pakistan is so expensive, or why dollar is so powerful, right? It talks about international trade, right? How it studies how China is such, how is China the next superpower. It would study why and how India is an emerging economy, right? Or maybe why is Pakistan facing so high prices or inflation, and how China's economic growth affects global markets, right? So economics really matters because it touches every part of our lives. It explains, like I said, it just goes on explaining why the price of your favorite coffee is going up, right? So that's what, guys, economics is all about. And that's all, guys, for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and that was a short one. And from here onwards, I'm going to be coming up with more videos for you all, and just stay tuned for more content on my channel. Subscribe to my channel, keep sharing, and I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, take care.